K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTimidRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTimidRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Welcome to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. here on TalkTimidRadio.com. You can call into today's show if you'd like at 877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Our subject today is the 5th and 14th Amendment. And we are actually out of, Mr. Fuller's out of the 5th area of people activity called the law. And he just mentioned a few moments ago about a law enforcement officer or police officer. Mr. Fuller, on page 151, a question was asked on that page, right in the middle, since you had brought this up. It said, what are the duties of a correct law enforcement officer? You see that right there?
On page
151, right in the middle.
151.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me get to it here. I think, let's see, 151. Okay. What are the duties of a correct law enforcement officer? That's a question. The answer, it says here, the basic duty of a correct law enforcement officer is to have the correct intentions. I mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
Have the correct intentions, which is to help produce justice. Protect and serve is what the slogan is in the Northwestern Hemisphere among a whole bunch of law enforcement officers. Protect and serve. Protect what? And serve whom? Okay, so you got to find out in law enforcement school, what are you protecting and what are you serving? Whom are you protecting and whom are you serving? If you're a correct law enforcement officer, you're protecting the people in order to serve the people. What people? All people. In doing what? In producing a product called guaranteeing, in my opinion, or in the opinion of many so-called departments of justice, a product called justice. Guarantee that nobody's mistreated. Nobody is ever mistreated. And guarantee that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's why some law enforcement officers, even though they're not assigned to do it, may pull somebody over that's driving erratically, and they find that the person that's driving erratically, because they're trying to get to the hospital, and the person who is doing the driving is pregnant. It's a lady who's fixing to have a baby, and she's trying to drive herself to the hospital, and she's feeling pains, so she's driving erratically. Now, the law enforcement officer does not, if he has the correct intentions, say, I don't care what your problem is, lady, you're driving erratically, and so you're going to get a big ticket. And so now whatever other problem you got, you can iron that out with somebody else. My assignment is to give out tickets. I'm a traffic officer. All right. Well, that's not the correct intentions. And even though it might not be specifically in his or her job description for that law enforcement officer, what you do is what? Protect and serve. You evaluate that situation right there. Everything isn't in the handbook, but you make judgments based on what? The intention of protecting and serving in order to produce a product called justice, which means guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Yes.
So many law enforcement officers deliver the baby themselves. I mean, and give the lady as much comfort as she can possibly get until he or she, the officer, can get some backup help.
Okay. Let's take a call. Okay, caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. Bobby. Hello, Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. This is Xavier. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I know I might be off a topic, but the question I have for you, Mr. Fuller, is when you first discovered your calling in life, what were some of the challenges you had with people around you, as far as family and friends, that didn't see the same calling that you had on your life?
What is the question now?
Okay, when you first started discovering about this system of white supremacy / racism, and you started expressing to people that you knew, what were some of the challenges that you had when you first started expressing it to people around you?
I didn't get that last.
Challenges, he said, that you faced when you came into the knowledge of what was going on and happening in regard to racism.
What was my reaction to their reaction?
From the challenges that you personally had to face.
The challenges.
Yes.
Oh, well, one of the first people that read my book, he gave it back to me and he said, "You know what you got there, Fuller?" And I said, "What?" It was a fellow that I worked with on a job. He said, "You got nothing there. There ain't nothing in that book. You just spent your time writing something, ain't you? I don't see nothing in there that I can use." And my reply, if I understand your question correctly, was, that's exactly the way that the book is supposed to work. If you don't see anything in there that you can use, then, hey, I'm not out here trying to give somebody a problem that they don't have. The book is supposed to be designed to help the individual person with his or her individual problem. Because the theory is, if you solve the problem of each individual person of color, you automatically solve the problems of all of the people, of persons of color, of all persons of color. That's the theory. That's the mathematics. That's the logic. If you solve the problem, each individual, everybody on the planet has some type of problem. If you solve the problem in the most constructive manner of each individual on the planet, in the most constructive manner, you have a constructive world. And you have solved the problems of everybody because you solved the problems of each individual, because people are individuals. The whole idea of the compensatory concept is aimed at the individual person. And so that person that steps forward and say, "Fuller," like the gentleman did with me when I showed him the book, say, "I read that, man, I stopped reading it, man, because there ain't nothing in there I can use." And I said, that's exactly the way it's supposed to work. Because the only reason there's nothing in there that you can use is that you don't have a problem that's affecting you in any way that you can't solve yourself. You have solved the problems that you say that you have. The book is supposed to be about problem solving. If a person doesn't have a problem, then what is there? What use do you have for the book?
Yes.
Except to hand it to somebody who says they have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Lots of black people say, I don't have a race problem. I don't know what this crackpot Fuller is talking about. And all the rest of them out here talking that stuff. I don't have no race problem everywhere I've ever gone.
All right.
People just open that door for me. White people, black people. I don't have no race problem. I ain't got no problem.
Okay. This is this Gmail is from David. He says this: recently, a congresswoman, and I won't say her name, had nude photos of her private parts put on a website. The nude photos shows that she has a possible Nazi tattoo in her groin area. Many people, including myself, believe she is a suspected white supremacist. A lot of non-white people says she is not a suspect white supremacist because of her political position on LGBTQ issues and her political party, the Democrats. This is causing a lot of, in capital letters, confusion for non-white people. Mr. Fuller, the code says racist man and racist woman will continue to practice white supremacy to dominate and mistreat non-white people for fun, glory, personal gains. My question is, according to the code, what, and these are in capital letters, what specific role does the racist woman play in maintaining the system of white supremacy? Thank you. I will continue to support the program because it is so needed in these troubling times. David.
Well, if the person that wrote that in has read the book or been listening to the program, every white person on the planet, according to the code, every white person in the known universe, in the system of white supremacy, which is the only government of the planet, who is able to be a white supremacist, underline the word able, is, according to the code, automatically a racist suspect. In other words, they are suspected of being a white supremacist based on having the ability to be one. Now, that sounds harsh, but it isn't. It's logical. Why? Why is it logical that every white person who is able to be a white supremacist, as long as white supremacy exists, should be suspected of being one, regardless of what they do? They should be suspected of being one. Why? Where's the logic? Where's the justice? Here's where it is. There is no master list that I know of, and if there is one, someone can reveal it to me, of who is and who is not a white supremacist. So under the laws of circumstantial evidence, somebody's got to be a white supremacist. So just like in any criminal situation, and the entire planet is a criminal situation, you suspect whomever are the usual suspects. And who are they? They could be anybody. Why? In a system of white supremacy. Because the white supremacists are known for what? Deception. They know how to fool people. They have hundreds of ways of fooling their victims. That's how their victims became victims. The white supremacists are masters of deception. They are masters of causing confusion. They are masters of making you think that they are not white supremacists when they are. So if you see two white people coming down the street, the question is, are both of them white supremacists? Are none of them white supremacists? Neither one of the two? or is one of them a white supremacist? And if one of them is a white supremacist and there's two of them, which one? You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And when will you know? It's when they prove it to you, either one of them or both of them,
Yes.
as an individual person. Because according to the code, no black person can single out a white person and say that white person in the system of white supremacy is not a white supremacist. And step two, prove it to another non-white person, person of color.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can make that determination, for example. Neely Fuller can point out a white person, maybe, for example, and say, I know that this white person is not a racist. I've known this white person for years. I've seen this white person make all kinds of sacrifices. And I am saying to the world that I am vouching for this particular white person as not being a racist. The code absolutely prohibits that. Why? Because the code says every white person has to prove to every non-white person on the entire planet that he or she is not a racist. And no non-white person can vouch for a white person as not being a racist.
Can you say that again, please?
No non-white person is qualified to vouch for a white person not being a racist in the system of white supremacy. And it's a logical reason for that. The white supremacists know how to convince one or two black people that he or she is not a racist, or 1 or 2,000, or 1 or 2 million. They know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They are very deceptive, and they know how to really work at it.
Okay.
Make all kinds of sacrifices. I mean, throw their child into the fire. I mean, to save a black person and all this type of thing. Okay? But the white supremacists are percentage people. And those who are the greatest of the deceivers, the greatest people who are artists at fooling people, know how to convince thousands sometimes of non-white people, I am not a racist, and I have proven to 2,000 black people that I'm not a racist. I got 2,000 black people that I can vouch for that can prove that I'm not a racist.
Okay, got to leave that
Now,
one.
that 2001, that one black person who hasn't been proven to is not in that 2,000, what that black person is supposed to do is say, okay, you proved it to those other 2,000. Now I'm number 2001. You got to start all over again and prove it to me.
Okay. Pardon me, Mr. Fuller, I have to do this. Talk to him at radio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Here's a few that I'm going to share with you. All in the Family with S. Yolanda Robinson, Conversation with Don Corina, and the Quay Morgan Hill Show. Again, as I've often mentioned, these shows are exclusive to Talk to Him at radio.com, and all you have to do is go to the Talk to Him at radio.com home site, click on programs, and there is a complete list of all the current shows that Talk to Him at radio carries. You need to give it a sample to see if you like it or don't like it, and that's all you have to do. All that from Talk to Him at radio.com, radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. By the way, I don't mean to interrupt Mr. Fuller when he is talking, but I am required at certain intervals to break in, so I'm trying to limit as much as I possibly can, break it in. But when he's giving his examples, and they are just outstanding, I want to listen to it too, but I don't mean to do that. That's just for those who, anyway, that's just for a certain group of people. Anyway, back to the Gmails, 1-877-932-9766. I hope you accept that as an apology. Anyway, this comes from this brother. He says this, Mr. Fuller. He says, I heard a brother on last Wednesday's show asking Mr. Fuller why we don't seem to get it. It's really two things. Number one, all lies of white greatness are in the subconscious minds from church, T-E-L-L, a vision, public miseducation, etc. And number two, we are overly emotional. Combine those two, and you have a perfect recipe for brainwashed slaves. Mr. Fuller, I would like to ask, can we overcome white supremacy while we are still practicing their religion, which denigrates us, and tell us to obey our masters, and that females are filthy and on their periods?
What's that part about the female?
And that females are filthy on their periods.
Oh, the females are
filthy, dirty, nasty, whatever filthy means.
If now any blame for racism is being put on black females, no. All prisoners of war are equal. There are no big-time prisoners of war and little scrubby prisoners of war, or if you might use the term, dirty prisoners of war. We are all prisoners of war. We were prisoners of war before we were born, if you're a person of color. Prisoners of race war. Prisoners of the system of white supremacy. We're born in prison. All prisoners are equal. So one can't really talk down to the other, and one really shouldn't talk up to the other. Or you might have some prisoners who strut around in the prison yard saying they are king of the cell block, like you have in every, what we call greater confinement. You have that in every prison. But that doesn't mean anything to the warden. That might mean something to the other prisoners. But within the greater scheme of things, that's zero power. That's just somebody pretending. Why? Because all prisoners, you are in there. You are in there. So you are equal to every other prisoner in there because you are subject to the whiplash of the warden, of the prison masters, the white supremacists. So therefore, one cannot criticize another. I don't criticize other black people. Some other black, the code doesn't permit that.
Yes.
They're calling another black person a coward.
Okay.
Or something like that. Or any other name. You're not supposed to be doing any name calling at all anyway.
Yes, sir.
It's just another prisoner. People have different levels. Say, you have some black people who are afraid of the white supremacists. Well, you have some that have more fear than others, but we're all fearful in a practical sense. Why? Because we're still breathing in the system of white supremacy.
Yes.
That reveals your fear right there.
He asked,
fear death, and you haven't really got them under white supremacy, so you're just equal to the other prisoners in the prison system.
Okay. He asked in the first part of that question, can we overcome white supremacy while we are still practicing their religion, which ingrates us and tells us to obey our masters?
Well, see, the white supremacy is the religion of white supremacy. The white supremacists are not Christians. They're not Jews. They're not Hindus. They're not Muslims. But white supremacist has one religion. One. And what is the name of that religion? In capital letters. The system of white supremacy. But a white supremacist will walk around and say that they'll say that they are a Christian at 10 o'clock, and at 10:15 they'll say that they are Hindu. They'll say that they are Confucianists. They'll say that they are Buddhists. They'll say anything. Why? Because the white supremacists do not care what they say or what anybody says, as long as they can still practice white supremacy. That's a part of their science. That's a part of their stock and trade. To be able to say anything and be convincing while they are saying it. Say it with a straight face, and then change what they said 5 minutes later and say that with a straight face. And you'll say, well, what you said 5 minutes ago, sir, contradicts what you're saying now. And they will say, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? I don't have any contradictions. And you say, well, you just contradicted yourself. And you say, says who? We say, well, I'm saying that. I know what I'm hearing. And the white supremacists will say, I don't know what you're talking about. Furthermore, this conversation is over. Get back in your cell. See, that's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean? You can't beat them in an argument. You think you're going to do that. You don't understand the power of the white supremacists. When you think you're going to beat them in an argument, you're fighting a losing battle. Why? Because the warden does not have to prove anything to the prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
Not anything. Like the movie Shawshank Redemption, when Andy Dufresne told the warden that he was being obtuse.
Ooh, yes.
You think that meant anything to the warden? But that word obtuse meant something to Andy Dufresne. It meant that he was going to do a couple of months in the hole, which is what he did.
Yes.
And the warden even reminded him about, now, how do you think about me being obtuse? I'll show you obtuse. Because the warden said, I don't care what kind of words my prisoners come in here with. I'm the word master. Why? Because I'm the master over them. That's why.
Yes. Okay.
I can harm them and they can't harm me. That's the bottom line.
All righty. Let's see here. Caller, we're going to get you after the break. Also, for those who are listening, look up the Brady list of 1963. We're going to try to hit on that. TalkTainmentradio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentradio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. Podcasts are available. That's radio the way it should be there. Stay right there. We're going to get this call, and then we're going to get this Gmail and try to explain what the Brady list of 1963 is and how it coincides with our program today about the 5th and 14th Amendments in the compensatory lexicon. Yeah, all that more coming up next on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is proud to present the compensatory concept. It is an effective system for countering the effects of white supremacy. TalkTainmentRadio.com is able to carry the first hour. However, the cost for the second hour is exceeding our limited budget. That is why we ask for your kind assistance in keeping the second hour on the air. If you believe like we do, help us in this struggle for justice. Go to the gold donate button on the TalkTainmentRadio.com web page and hit the gold donate button. That's the gold donate button. And please donate. Help us to keep the second hour of the compensatory concept on the air. Thank you.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Kickin online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Kickin products are better than those other guys. Ash Kickin candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right, and you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kickin' online at www.ashkickin.com.
Stand by for an important announcement for renters and investors. You have probably heard about this bad economy and high foreclosure rate. I'm here to bring you hope. Every foreclosed property is a blessing or a deal for a new buyer or investor. These properties are selling every day all over Central Ohio for several reasons. They are equity rich, worth tens of thousands of dollars above their price. There is down payment money available and remodeling funds if needed. Don't let the doom and gloom news keep you from your dream of home ownership. Call Linco Realty today at 865-9614. That's 865-9614. Call now. Always remember, these times, like all times, are good times if we but know what to do with them. They also have programs for investors who want to get off the couch and run with the big dogs. Call Linco today at 865-9614 or log on to repohomeslist.com.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
Looking for something special for your club or group? Take a trip. Cruise planners will help you plan the event of a lifetime. Explore exotic places from Africa to Asia, Bermuda to Las Vegas to Hawaii, with special offers that make it affordable and exciting. Click on to www.greatgetawaytrips.com for great deals or call today at 614-707-SHIP. That's 614-707-7447.
Sex Code War by Kahari Inaharo, the author of the Essence Magazine bestseller Race Code War, is releasing his second book, Sex Code War. Be on the lookout for Sex Code War.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
Here's an idea. You've heard of the notion of pay it forward? It comes from the 2000 movie Pay It Forward. Basically, the premise is helping someone with no expectations of payback, providing assistance to someone, passing information on, simply doing a good deed for a total stranger, and instead of allowing them to pay it back, ask them to pay it forward. Doing favors for other people and asking them to do the same. The principle is the same as multi-level marketing, except that instead of soap or vitamins, it's generosity between strangers that is being passed on. Pay It Forward is mentoring, it's volunteering in your community, it's shoveling a neighbor's snow, or cutting an elderly person's grass for them, or taking a senior to the store. Don't wait for someone else to do something good. Do it yourself. It starts with you. Talktainment Radio strongly embraces the notion of pay it forward. In fact, we just did.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You got the power.
TalkTainmentRadio.com is where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And our topic today has been and still is the 5th and 14th Amendments. One of our Gmailers wrote in and wanted an explanation on that, and according to how Thurgood Marshall use that, and Mr. Fuller has been explaining it by examples all throughout the program. Let's see here. Frank Wickfell and PJ Hawkler, thank you for listening, and all the other callers here. This is what we're going to try to do. We're going to hit this caller and have Mr. Fuller address the caller's concern. Then I'm going to try to hit the Brady list of 1963. That gives you time to look at that and how it relates to this subject. And then we're going to discuss Mr. Fuller's book. We're going to try to get all that in the 27 minutes that we have remaining. So, caller, you are up with your question for Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
How you doing, Mr. Bobby? Mr.
Yes, sir.
Fuller?
Mm-hmm.
Brother Marco from Baltimore.
Hey.
Hey, how you doing, brother? Mr. Fuller, I have a statement and a short statement and a question. About a week ago, I was speaking to a 62-year-old admitted white supremacist. Again, I say admitted white supremacist. I didn't have to suspect. He let me know right out front that he was a racist and he was a white supremacist. Now, my question to you is, can you explain for my care unit in Baltimore how non-white people are most confused about racism, white supremacy, and white people aren't confused?
Oh, very simple. Because white people are born into a prison system called white supremacy. And black people are born into a system called white supremacy. But the white supremacists are supposed to, from birth, let black people know that they are not in a system of white supremacy, that they are in a world of justice and righteousness and goodness. That's their assignment. They are supposed to tell their victims, there's nothing better than this. This system that you're in is nothing better than this. You can't get no better than this. You are in a system called, and they have all kinds of names for it, capitalism, democracy, righteousness, Christian, Catholicism, Mormonism. Oh, they have all kinds of names for, things that are so good for you. I mean, it's just made for you. I mean, embrace it. Americanism more than anything. Grab it. Okay. And here the code says that, you just listen to the words. And what you do is just ask the definition of each one of the terms that they use. That's a part of the code. And there's a word guide that's a part of the code to help you along with what questions to ask when the white supremacists are using these terms, because that's their power. See, some white supremacists will say, yes, I am a racist, implying that the person standing next to them, who is white, is not. But he or she doesn't say that. They just say that they are. Now, what does that do to the black person who's standing there? The black person assumes that the white people who didn't say that are not racist. And that's exactly what that white supremacist wanted you to do. So all the focus will be on him, which is exactly where he wants to focus, and not on that ocean of white supremacists who are just as much white supremacists as he or she is. That's the trick. And so black people have this thing of, well, yeah, down there in that town where I came from, there's some racists in that town. Man, that's why I left there. And I came here. I mean, I wanted to get away from that. Well, according to compensatory counter-racist logic, there's no way to get away from the power of the white supremacists, because the white supremacists power is everywhere, including all the places where you don't see any of them physically.
Okay. All right. Brother Muko, thank you so much. Missed you calling, but thank you for calling in, brother. Appreciate that.
Man, I appreciate you, and I'm always listening in and tuning in to you and Mr. Fuller, two of my favorite people in the world.
Okay.
Y'all take care.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's do this. Let's move on to this so-called Brady list. Now, this came from one of our Gmailers, Kathy. I'm not going to mention her last name, although I could, but I'm not going to do that. But she spoke about the Brady list, and I've never heard of it. Have you heard of that, Mr. Fuller?
Heard of what now?
The Brady list.
Brady list? Never heard of it.
Okay. Let me give you a brief description. This is the Brady list refers to the case of Brady versus Maryland in 1963, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary and subsequent line of cases requiring prosecutors to disclose expository material to defense attorneys, including information that could be used to potentially impeach the credibility of law enforcement officers. Now, Kathy wrote this. She said, the Brady list from 1963, Mr. Fuller, just announced, if you came into contact and were arrested, had these cops testify or write up anything, you can get it overturned. 1,200 cops nationwide. The Brady list, if cops lied or had misconduct, you can challenge and get off or out of jail. Any charge, probably CPS intervention. 2, property seized, all of it, a gift of liberation, free man, free woman, free children, free families, is the cops on this list. No matter how old the charges, they can be, your records can be clear your names, and so forth. Now, I've never heard of that, and you say you haven't either, Mr. Fuller?
I've never heard of it.
Okay.
But we have been informed, and everybody who that might help should get that information. If it's going to help them to do what? To promote constructive results. Hello?
Yes, you're still, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what codification is about. Anything that helps anybody to get constructive results, underline the word constructive, should be promoted, should be publicized. Anything. That becomes a part of what you might call the counter-racist code.
Mm-hmm.
And in answer to the previous caller, what we need is to follow a code. That's all it is. How can we do this? How can we do that? And that's what I've tried to write a format for. There's no such thing as the whole code. Somebody asked me years ago, Fuller, where's the whole code? Is it in your book? And I said, there's no such thing as a whole code until all problems are solved.
Yes.
And you know, how many problems are there in the entire universe? All kinds of problems. Problems I never heard of that are problems, or never recognized as being problems. But until all problems are solved, you don't have a whole code.
Mm-hmm.
Code just means when certain things happen, that's what it is. You look at what is happening. First thing you want to do is look at it. And then you say, is this a problem? And if it's a problem, codification is about problem solving in the most constructive manner. That's all a code is. So in answer to a lot of people's questions who called in today, the different things about black males and females and all like that, and how black females have to stop being so trashy and all that, it has to do with codification. And the one word that's important in codification that stands out, constructive. All of your activities are supposed to be constructive. when you look at Halloween that's coming up in a couple of days, you look at that and say, now, what is Halloween? That's the first thing you want to know. What is it for? And is the result of Halloween supposed to leave you with a constructive result? When you go through the Halloween process, whatever that is, do you have a constructive result or a non-constructive result? Because that's what everything is supposed to be about. It's real simple. Codification is real simple. I want to say this to the entire world. It's simple. It's not complicated. Everything is either constructive or non-constructive. Keep that in mind.
Yes, sir.
If you're a person of color and you are doing anything of constructive value, you are eliminating the system of white supremacy just by doing something constructive.
Yes.
I don't care what it is. And the more things you do constructive, the white supremacists are having fits.
Yes.
Because a black person is never supposed to do anything of constructive value.
Okay. Right. Before we talk about your book, which we're getting ready to, I was told that the name of the program for Sarah Robinson is called All in Our Family, not All in the Family, which is another show. Am I correct? All in the Family. Okay. All in Our Family. All in Our Family, which is part of the thing on one of the programs that Talktainment Radio has to offer. It's called All in Our Family. Right, Galen? He's looking at me and shaking his head. Right. Okay, so we got that right. And before we answer go to your book, Mr. Fuller, it says, can a white person vouch for another white person as being a racist white supremacist? It says, can a white person vouch for another white person as not being a racist white supremacist?
No. Any white person who is able, I'm going to emphasize this again, according to the code, any person classified as white and functioning as a white person on the planet, right this minute, in 2019, any person classified as white and who functions as quote unquote white, who is able to be a white supremacist, should be suspected of being one until proven different. Now, proven to whom? To each and every individual non-white person on the planet. You got to prove it to each individual. Saying that you're proving it to the masses of black people, or a classroom of black people, or on a job, or any what you call locale, that won't cut it. In order to really prove that you're not a white supremacist, you've got to prove it to every non-white person on the planet. Individually. Because everybody is an individual. There's no such thing as mass proof in the business of counter-racism. I mean, that's just law. And it's based on logic. Why? Because the white supremacists are masters of deception. So it's very easy for many white people to prove to huge numbers of non-white people that they are not white supremacists. And even when, and particularly when another white person says that that other white person is not a racist, absolutely not. I mean, because then that brings into question what? Who did this kind of talking? I mean, why are you saying that your buddy is not a racist? He's white, but he's not a racist, and you're white. Well, who are you? Because the code says you're a suspect too.
Yes.
And now that you said that, what you just said, you're even more suspect by saying that that other person is not a racist. How do you know? How do you know that you are not a racist doing this talking about the other person who may or may not be a racist? But according to the victim perspective, both of you are racist suspects. That's what you say. You never tell a white person under any circumstance that he or she is a racist. Never say that unless the white person says that he or she is a racist. They identify themselves as that. But you say, sir, you are a racist suspect. And if the person says, suspected by whom? You say, by me.
Okay.
and then you give them the reason.
Okay.
The code.
The code. Talk to him at radio.com. We go where you go. Download the Talk to him at radio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept. We have about 8 minutes left. But this is the time that we have Mr. Fuller talk about his book, and then after he finishes, I'm going to try to squeeze that last phone call in. So, Mr. Fuller, go ahead and speak to your book.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. Most of the things that I have talked about on this program are in the book in detail. And the book is an instruction book or a suggestion book in answer to the questions, hopefully, most of the questions, or a substantial number of the questions, certainly not all the questions that people would have about being a victim of racism and what to do about it on a daily basis. That's what the book is supposed to be designed for. Not wait to go to a meeting once or twice a year and hear somebody make a long speech about racism.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about. It's about what to do about whatever your circumstances are while you're on the planet, either directly or indirectly. What to do each and every day, each minute of the day, what you're supposed to be doing. That comes under economics, the use of time and energy.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 things that are listed in there as suggestions. You don't have to do them because you're your own law enforcer when it comes to counter racism. Nobody is your law enforcer when it comes to counter racism because nobody has countered racism. So you don't have to really even listen to Fuller. Ultimately, you make your own decisions. Pick out what will work for you out of the book.
Okay.
The things that won't work for you, leave it alone. But go get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com.
Okay. All righty. We're talking about the 5th and the 14th Amendment today, but we have this question here. Go ahead, caller. You're on with Mr. Fuller.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I have children. And, I'm explaining them, they're 10 and 5 years old, and I'm explaining them the system of white supremacy. And I tell them that we live in a global system of white supremacy. One of the things I struggle with is to give proof and examples of how we are currently being dominated in all 9 areas of activity. Quickly, if we were just in the elevator or we were in a quick little car ride, and I know we got like 1 minute or 2 minutes left, if you had to give examples that you were going to explain to children to show them how we are being dominated by white supremacy in all 9 areas, how would you proceed to do that? With, like I said, with children, and you only got like a short amount of time.
Yes, people have often asked me, "What do you tell children?" You tell children the same thing you tell anybody, because we are all children in the system of white supremacy. I mean, you talk to people the way that they are people. They are people. All victims of racism, regardless of age, are still victims of racism. So how do you talk to people? That's the thing to consider on. Not children, because we are all children in the system of white supremacy. All non-white people have been forced into childhood and kept there. And so we are all children. Prisoners of war are children. Childlike state of condition. So you tell your prison mates what your offspring are. That's who they are. Your prison mates. They're in the same cells with you. So you tell them the same thing you tell all the rest of the prisoners when they ask you a question. And that's the best time to tell any of them anything in answer to your question. The best time to talk to people about any subject is when they bring up the subject. You don't try to indoctrinate people because you might confuse them.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to do that. So you wait until they start asking questions. You know, Daddy, what's this? Daddy, what's that? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? I saw something on television. What is that? Can you explain that? That's the time to have the answers ready. And if you don't have the answers ready, you still have this answer ready. I don't know. But since you asked me, I am going to try to find out, and when I get the answer, I will get back to you. That's what you do, each and every day.
Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, caller. All righty. Mr. Fuller, in the remaining minute and a half that we have in this program, today's program, there's been I've been receiving a lot of Gmails concerning chicken, and I guess there's a place called the Chicken Council or whatever. I've never heard of it, and I didn't investigate that. But I noticed that there's been a lot of advertisements for chicken and chicken sandwiches all over. But one of the callers that calls into the show indicated that he is suspect about this chicken, being that this is what they say. They claim no hormones or steroids are being used in these chickens. In relation to food poisoning, things that we cannot detect. And the market seemed to be aimed at particularly black people. I'm not going to say the names of the company, but all this rush on this chicken, being that you are that they, being white, the racists are suspected of doing things. Could you see them doing things like this, poisoning the food or poisoning the chicken to cause us to eat it and get all kinds of diseases?
Yes. The answer is yes. A flat yes. I went and bought some chicken that had all of these on the labels, no antibiotics, no this, no that, whatnot, but it tasted funny. I mean, now some of it didn't, but I got some that tasted what, quote, unquote, funny, which wasn't funny. I mean, and I wondered about it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, now, this is advertised as having no poisons, being vegetarian red, all that, but in anything that the white supremacists make available to non-white people, the trend of thinking should be, what are they up to now?
Okay. Well, we got to
always suspect that if they're directed,
okay,
like if you see it advertised on television, it's something that black people should be embracing.
Okay.
Always suspect that they are doing what? Harm to you.
All righty.
Harm. That's what they do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fuller. We have to close the show. Talk to him at radio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com.